Hey, folks. Just want to welcome you to part 2 of our episode with the Appalachian farmers here. We had a great time with these guys. We also appreciate everybody that joined us here on Patreon here recently. If you haven't did that yet, it's patreon.com/getontap for just $3 a month. You get a chance to support us. You get all these episodes early. If we do a 2-parter, you get the entire thing, and you get the subscriber content, which as of now, we're starting the 30-minute kind of show a week where Simon and I just kind of go off cuff and uncut. So that's a pretty good time. So check that out there. And if anything else, you're just good opportunity to support us because we're always putting it right back in our community. So once again, just wanted to thank Thad, Amos, Chris, and Simon again for this episode. It was a heck of a time. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, go back and listen to it. And we're going to pick up right where we left off. And thank you again for tuning in.
So one of the reasons why I decided to get out of the horticulture side of the ag was you punch a clock at 6:45 every day, Monday through Friday, and this goes back to the lifestyle. So you wake up every morning, punch a clock. There it is, another beer being opened.
That was Billy.
It's 6:45. You clock. At 6:45, you clock in.
Not from what I'm looking at.
And in the summertime, you're working till 7:30, 8 o'clock, and sometimes it's 9 o'clock before you would leave the shop to go home just because you're getting ready for the next day. Well, when I got married and we decided to be really serious about having a family, me growing up without that father figure and that a day-to-day life, that's not what I wanted for my kid or what I want for my kids. And farming, yes, you people describe truck drivers as a backbone of the country. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say farmers are the feet.
That's a damn good analogy.
The feet?
The feet.
I'm not a foot person, so.
Well, your feet take the most abuse, right? You're on them all the time.
You carry the rest of it.
You carry the load.
You carry the rest of it.
And you, like me, probably don't get manis and petties. Or do you, Amos? You have a little girl now, so my little girl's only 19 months old, so I can see that daughter daddy date coming up.
Amos is a pretty boy. If he had a pedicure, it was long before he had a daughter. Come on now.
Listen, your daughter's only 19 months old. Another year and a half, your toenails are going to be painted.
Well,
mine have been, and I now am very cautious. Yeah,
mine haven't been yet.
But you see what I mean. Your feet take the most abuse.
You're always on them.
And you're always on them, and you pay very little attention to them unless they start hurting you. Well, farmers, they're nonstop on the go, whether it's chores. If they're not farming, they're sleeping, unless they're extremely sick. And they get the shaft every way you turn around. Look at milk prices. Milk prices have drove so many farmers out of business.
Well, you look at beef prices in the store, and then you look at the prices we're getting.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then, so yes, truckers get our stuff. They're the spine.
Which is, at the end of the day, is why Thad decided I got to own a store. I got to be a banker. I got to be an investor. Because I want to farm. I mean, Thad's just like me. I mean, that's what we love. That's what we know. But how do I make $1?
Yeah.
In the 70s, you could take 6 cows to market and go buy a brand new truck with the money you got for them.
Now you got to sell the whole dang farm.
Now you take 6 cows to market, you can still go buy a 1970s pickup.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
I mean,
Well, I'm glad you said something about milk prices. I want somebody here to inform me about this and I appreciate what you said about truck drivers being the backbone of this country. Because as a truck driver, I like to look at myself as the backbone of this country.
Keep dreaming.
But a lot of times, I don't deliver milk or anything, but I do deliver a lot of different things to farmers a lot of times, and I have delivered to dairy farms from time to time. And this was about a year ago. I was down in Pennsylvania County. Guys got a big operation down there. I was kind of like, man, I bet you're raking it in now, but because of all the prices and stuff going up, you kind of at least milk prices are set for him. So even if the diesel prices go up, even if his costs go up, he can still only sell for a certain amount.
Let Thad explain this. He can explain how milk prices work better than
for anyone in the county. A lot, maybe with the exception of Mark Barnhart.
That's right. And Thad's going to walk you through it. But so this year, milk prices, I've heard it. They're better than they have been.
That still ain't saying nothing.
But look at the fuel price. Look at the fertilizer prices.
Milk price, I still put a little bit on the milk truck. We still sell some to conventional market, and like I told earlier, it ends up in the United jug. Milk prices have gone up around 18% from last year.
What's milk prices per pound now?
Fertilizer prices are up
3 times.
almost 200%.
Exactly.
Does that have something to do with what's going on over in Russia and Ukraine right now? I mean, is that because that's kind of something I wanted to ask about this episode too with some local farmers.
It's Uncle Joe's policy. But so fuel product, fertilizer is tied to natural gas. They make fertilizer with natural gas. So fuel prices affect the price of fertilizer, as it does anything else. Natural gas is also involved in making plastic. So all your packaging materials is tied to the fuel price. And so that's the reason why that's happened.
The feet.
But so he's saying, all right, milk prices are up 18%. But milk prices being up 18% don't even come close to equating the fuel cost, the fertilizer cost. All of that's up 200%, and milk prices up 18%.
Well, the pricing mechanism now is, and it's the same way in beef. So dairy is a little behind the other animal agriculture. All the other animal agriculture is vertically integrated. Beef is not quite there yet, but they're pretty daggone close because I think there's 4 packing companies that control 85% of the processing.
4 is correct.
Yeah, and so they basically control the processing. And what's happened is because you have large multinational corporations that are involved in this, then the market price that they have to pay to Brazil for beef, or that they have to pay, or affects the price that we get here. And it's not the same quality and it's not the same product. However, it affects the price because they can buy it cheaper and they mix it together with a little stuff that makes it more desirable. That cow from Brazil, she might be 5 years old, getting slaughtered and making a steak out of it. Well, that steak ain't worth 5 cents, so they make hamburger out of it. And they mix it with a cow that's come from here that's 2 years old, that's going to be prime beef, so that the flavor will be satisfactory enough for them to eat. And milk prices is much the same. So China is one of the largest consumers of powdered milk. And powdered milk is what sets the price on the West Coast because that's the closest market. Mm-hmm. Now Argentina and New Zealand both supply China. China don't buy a lot from America, but because of the milk price and the powder, that sets the price. Now, how is it that how backwards this is? How is it that we can take a fluid milk product and the price be based upon the formula to set the price be based upon cheese, which is an end product, and powdered milk, which is an end product? And so they pay us based on what those products will bring because the middle people have to make money. And in order for them to make money, we got to make sure the margins are correct. And if the margins are not correct on the sales market to sell to China, then we're going to cut the farmer's price so that we can continue to make our margins.
So why is diesel fuel so much more expensive than gasoline? Because diesel fuel is a byproduct of gasoline.
No, why is ag fuel?
Well, the road fuel's even more expensive than that.
But what I'm saying, to me, red fuel being $5 plus a gallon is a straight FU to the ag industry.
100%. 100%.
Because you cannot tell me that if there was any love for the ag community, they would make sure that fuel price was, dude, it don't, man.
$1.85 a gallon.
I can't even talk about this.
Oh, it makes your blood boil, don't it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about something else.
Simon.
Let's talk about something else that makes my blood boil.
Oh, come on.
So farming gets blamed for pollution. We take the biggest hit.
And methane, because we don't have fart sacks on the back of the cows.
How ridiculous is that?
So farming gets blamed for the runoff and the pollution of the Smith Mountain Lake, just for example. Farming is one of the most regulated businesses.
Big time.
Our farm has a land management, what do you call it? Plan.
Nutrient management plan.
So every load of manure we put down on a acre of land gets recorded. Every ounce, every pound of fertilizer, every crop, every year.
But Jamie was even explaining to me that even with that, when I was in the combine with you, there's certain areas of that big field that how big was that field that we did?
That was a 15-acre field.
15 acres.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Hang
on
just a second.
Okay.
We'll go there. So we get blamed for all this runoff, all this. They come through and do the cows out of the creek. Well, farmers, in my personal opinion, are not the pollutioners. It's these rich buttholes down here on the lake whose neighbor has a green yard and he wants a greener yard, so he goes to Lowe's and he buys this fertilizer and he puts it down at 4 times the rate, and when he turns his sprinklers on, he thinks that he has to run his yard for 4 hours to get all the max benefit to get a greener yard than his neighbor. And trust me, I know, because I was in this business for a long time. Anyway, when he should only be running it an hour, just enough to get the fertilizer loosened up so that it can and soak into the soil. Well, when he runs it for 4 hours, he's taking almost every bit of that nutrients and fertilizer that he put on his yard at 4 times the rate that it needs to be and washing it in the lake. Don't give me that crap that cows crapping in the creek is polluting it. It's natural. The fish come through and pick the corn out.
Well, how many businesses in Roanoke are regulated, like those crummy hotels where you got needles and condoms sitting out there in the parking lot when the rain comes, runs them into the sewer drain. Okay. Sewer drain runs into the Roanoke River runs into Smith Mountain Lake. Yeah. So you're blaming it on the cows and the farmers, but
the state of Virginia allows municipalities to, if it's more than 1.5 inches an hour, they're allowed to open the valve. Raw sewage go right in the river.
Wow.
They're trying to mitigate that by building new facilities, but as the time being, and Roanoke is one of them. And so, if you notice, I don't know, and I don't think we need to get too far off on this because this is not particular. But if you notice, all of the illnesses from E. coli or whatever that's happened in Smith Mountain Lake have been on the Roanoke River side, because it. That
goes to the city.
That comes from the city.
Yeah, I mean, Amos has mentioned that before.
Yeah.
So Simon, what you were talking about a while ago, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So part of our land management program is, so one of the guys that we work with, Sean Duff, he's a phenomenal guy. He's young. He's enthusiastic about the farmers. He works with us on our land management programs. And this past year or year before, they've got a sled that they pull behind an ATV. And this sled, and they pull over all of our acres, and this sled measures out or it makes a diagram of all of our pastures and our crop fields. And then they pull soil samples out of each one of those grids. And then he takes and looks at the data, and then he punches it in his computer, and he's like, okay, this field, this section of this field needs 15 units of phosphorus, and this one over here needs 45, or this one over here needs 100, and it's all in a USB port. And so when we order up phosphorus or lime or whatever it is, it's actually pretty cool. When the guy comes out to spread the fertilizer, he plugs this USB port into his computer, and he can drive along, and his GPS picks up. Okay, so I'm getting to zone 1, it needs 100 units. I'm getting to zone 2, it only needs 30 units, and it's variable. So instead of taking 100 tons and putting 100 tons per acre over that whole 15 acres, as he goes from zone to zone on that 15 acres, it will pick up and it will speed up and slow down how much fertilizer.
The feed rate.
Yeah, how much fertilizer he's putting on that zone or that 15 acres. So to go back, it helps save the farmer money because he's not putting that 100 units per acre like Granddaddy did.
And evenly spreading
and evenly spread it, but it's only what the land needs.
And the land can only absorb, particularly with lime that I'm aware of, and my knowledge is minuscule in this area of expertise, but where they've got down to specifically spreading over a 15-acre field, the deficiencies, and being able to treat it appropriately with the absorption rates that the land can absorb. This is a major step because you're reducing that runoff. You're not over fertilizing or whatever the product that you're looking to put back into the soil that the crop has taken out, and it's brilliant. I mean, you've got to embrace, to me, this level of technology, and I'm sure it doesn't come cheaply, but
it doesn't come cheaply. And sometimes, if you take an old school farmer,
they're gonna laugh at you.
Yeah.
But this is about efficiency.
I don't necessarily buy that because that it's that great. Now I understand, but the reason why you need that kind of technology is because the same person doesn't do everything on the field. So when you have the same guy runs the tractor and pulls the manure spreader over it, and the same guy runs the tractor and plants the corn, and the same guy runs the tractor and chops the corn, you know where to put that stuff.
Right.
Because you can see it when you're in the tractor. You know exactly which spots it is that needs a double coverage of manure or less manure or whatever. You know exactly where it's at. But when we get away from that, we get to large scale again, where we got a bunch of different people doing different things and nobody communicates good and we don't keep good records, then we need that technology.
Well, you take, for example, and this is, I mean, it's farming, and we've had to adapt and overcome.
Right.
But so, for example, on our farm, the dairy side of it, the boss man, he does 70% of the manure spreading, he does 100% of the planting, and 90% of the time I do 100% of the chopping. And he's at the silo blowing it up. I'm focused on chopping. I'm not. I see the light spots. But at the end of the day, I don't really think that what all I go through in a day, I can go back to him and say, oh, yeah, that telephone pole, you probably ought to slow it up a gear. It's because, I mean,
But when you're dumping a load with the dump wagon, you ought to be writing it down in a notebook.
That's right.
Because that way you can communicate it, and that way you can
and see
it without the technology. Because manure is our friend. We can get rid of that. I mean, I'm trying to get away from all that commercial stuff.
That is so refreshing to hear.
Because I don't, the fact that we can go to a perennial-based system, I really think that dairy can survive off of pretty much a perennial system.
And I would agree.
With very little inputs. I mean, I'm going to say we're going to feed a little bit of grain maybe, but very little. And if we plant the proper perennials, if we plant the proper perennials, then what we get is clay soil in particular, which is what all of us here live under, and there are probably 100 different types of soils in Franklin County, but we all have clay. Clay soils hold on to all those nutrients; they don't go anywhere. It's not like sand. So if you plant the right kind of crops, perennials is what I'm talking about. They have different root systems that will gravitate and pull different things out of the soil and bring your fertility to the topsoil, and you will turn that red dirt into black dirt, which is the organic matter.
That's what you're after.
That's what we're after. And so that proves when you dig down and you got 3 inches of essentially black dirt, you have sequestered so much carbon out of the sky that it has changed the color of the dirt. And so you go back to that thing that we talked about earlier, that we are fixing the environmental problem. We're not creating it. They want to blame us for creating it. We're not creating it. We're fixing it.
I'm going to go back to Billy's original comment. You are the smartest guy in the room. And I love it. And that you're prepared to share it. That speaks volumes to me. Let me play a little bit of devil's advocate. And sometimes I do it just.
That's my job.
Well, I know, but let me bring it on.
You're on our side this time, Amos. I'm sorry.
With all the creeks, streams, and lovely little rivers running around through here, there is a significant lack of wildlife in our systems when it comes to trout and bass and whatever the marine wildlife may be, and a lot of it comes down to and may or may not be falsely leveled at the farmers with some of the chemical products that they're putting on their fields. So how do we explain, because I'd love to go trout fishing around here, but that
the water's
make
cold
sense.
enough.
Well, and you've got to go a bit higher up, and it may have something to do with heat, but I'd like to be able to dispel or address that particular issue. Because is it fertilizer runoff or chemical runoff? Because the production is reliant on, unfortunately, it's reliant on that interaction. Is that the case, or do you think it is? We're just too warm. Our creeks
I think that Billy's right. We're too low.
Yeah,
elevation-wise,
too low in elevation. Okay.
Up in Ferrum, you might have some streams, but I wonder if they're even big enough to have trout in them. Some of those little creeks that's coming out of the mountain that may be cool enough all year to.
Yeah.
For the most part, we're. But what the problem that we have, and I'm gonna go back to education, is that the colleges and universities do all the research for agriculture, and they do all the research for the medical profession, and they are for sale.
Well, they've been funded.
If you want a certain result, you pay us, and we'll get it.
Yeah.
And what has happened is,
and that's a problem with Virginia Tech.
Yes,
let me add,
a big
it's
time,
a big problem.
So
Easy.
What we have is this tool that Chris was just talking about.
I'm going at it.
This technology tool that Chris was just talking about variable rate fertilizer. That's a great tool, but if you send a soil sample to Virginia Tech, all you get is a chemical analysis. They're going to tell you what the crop's going to use that you're intending to plant, and what you got to put on there to get the kind of yields that you should get, the state average or whatever you desire. And the problem with that is that chemistry is just one of the pieces that must work. And the most important one, is the biology. The biology in the soil is the most important part.
Right.
And believe it or not, in a tablespoon of dirt, the stuff that we walk around on, there are over 2 million unidentified organisms. Unidentified. We have not even began to scratch the surface of understanding how things work down there. And that's the most marvelous thing to me, because here we are in production agriculture. I mean, it's a new
we still don't know.
It's a new frontier.
We still don't
let's
know.
figure it out.
And no matter what, when something happens or something changes, we got to find somebody to blame. It's easy to blame a farmer.
That's right.
It's easy to blame a farmer. As Chris said earlier, farmers are busy spending time farming. So
yeah, because most of these educated, and I use educated in quotation marks if you can't see me because you can't because you're listening. These educated assholes out here think that they're smarter than country bumpkins because they can walk, a block down the road and get a Starbucks and 12 different kind of meals and beers and stuff. It really doesn't work like that.
I tell you what, if you think that your college education is worth something, put it up to the test against that. I'm sorry,
Let me finish on this now.
Do we know Thad doesn't have a college education? Do you have a college education?
I'm a cow farmer with a high school diploma.
What's your education?
And that was when high school went to the 8th grade.
Oh, I know.
No, it wasn't.
I'm just messing with you, Thad.
I don't have no high school education.
I have a college degree, probably maybe the only one in the room,
There you go, Billy.
and I'm the dumbest person sitting here.
Riddle me this.
The dumbest one sitting at the table.
Your wife takes up the slack, though, Billy.
She takes up a lot of the slack.
Just like mine.
I finished high school, but it was by the grace of God.
So, but back to the soil here. If we're smart as farmers, we're going to begin to embrace this idea that we have got to figure out how to get to biology because, the epiphany for me, and I'm going to go back a few years. My dad's been gone. He passed away in 2015. And in 2007, he was diagnosed with cancer. And in 2008, I convinced him that he needed to retire. And that was about the same time that I looked at him one day and I said, something just occurred to me because 2007 and 2008, we handled more money. And notice I said handled. We didn't keep any of it. We handled more money than we was milking 135 cows than we had ever handled in our lives, either one of it ever seen. But we didn't have a penny to our name. We couldn't. He needed a new truck. We needed some new things, and we didn't have nothing. Our employees got paid, the bills got paid, everything, but we didn't have nothing because the expenses were so high.
Yeah.
And I had the epiphany of the seed corn salesman came down my driveway to sell me something. He had a new pickup. The semen salesman, the dairy semen salesman, he had a new pickup. The dairy equipment guy, he had a new pickup. The farm equipment guy, he had a new pickup. First thing you know, there was like 6 or 7 new pickups, and I said, well, Thad, how many new pickups you going to buy and drive around this hillside truck? You know what a hillside truck is? The one you got to park on a hill to get it to start.
And hope it starts so the brakes work when you get to the bottom.
And my point is we as farmers, if we don't understand how much money we're paying to somebody else who is not benefiting us and is not looking after the end user of our product, which is the grocery customer, we really don't have a dog in the fight. We need to just step aside and let somebody else do it because we have got to focus on the fact that the Lord created this stuff.
Don't ever quit. Please don't ever quit because they win. And then Bill Gates has another chunk of land.
That's right.
And
that's right.
SOB.
And that's happening on a daily basis.
It is.
And
Don't
I used to think that by me being involved in Farm Bureau and me being involved in this organization or that organization that went to Richmond and went to Washington D.C. and lobbied these politicians that we could change the way things are done. Not so. The change starts with Thad. Thad has to be the change.
It starts in Franklin County.
That's right. It starts in Franklin County. And Franklin County has to change. And Franklin County has to change. The consumers in Franklin County have to realize that there are people like me out here trying to do things differently. And when they start patronizing me, then I can spread that on to these other two guys.
That's true of Amos.
That's right.
True of Chris.
And
it's
so,
true of every farm that is here.
That's right.
That is looking to produce a better product. And quite frankly, screw the tax man.
And farmers is always looking to produce a better product. But, just like you said, you have so many people in your ear that this is the way to do it. This is the way to do it. Yeah. In real life, you're just paying for their salary.
Yep.
They don't care whether your product's better or not as long as they can sell you what they say is a better product. Thad done rolled his shirt sleeves up. He's getting right.
Hey, his water's done kicked in for his lubrication. What I've been drinking's done kicked in too. Hey, but right quick, Simon. So you were talking about the same thing Thad was how many new trucks you're buying. Our semen salesman used to work for a company, and he left that company. And one of the things he told me was that we had a hard time getting, I'm gonna call them grade A bulls for our AI system
For beef or dairy?
No, for dairy. Through the company he was previously working for. And what was happening was all these mega farms were getting top choice. I mean, they were buying all the semen before the bull was even producing them. So as soon as it was ready, it was going to these farms. Well, us little farmers couldn't get that grade A semen to bring our standards up, to bring our herd, build our herd genetics up.
That's a bit jacked up, right?
Was that a pun?
Oh, yes, it was.
Was that a pun?
I couldn't stop myself.
Easy, Simon.
Simon, unless you've been arm deep up in a cow, don't even talk about it.
Well, Chris, the solution to the problem is you got to breed your own. You got to raise your own bulls. You pick out of the best, and they say that's inbreeding or line breeding or whatever. But let me tell you, I have grazing genetics in my Holsteins for the fact that I have done that. That I can outgraze any color breed cow. They will outgraze any color breed cow any day of the week on any pasture because they have learned how to do that, and I have selected for that based on the bulls that I keep, and I breed my own cows. The semen salesman likes to have fit every time I come over, and he wants to chat with me. So, well, I ain't buying nothing from you. I don't need nothing.
There's so many jokes coming in here. I'm really having to hold myself back right now.
I need to make one thing clear. Those are some of the shots that I'm actually an employee on the dairy farming side.
Right, I understand.
So I'm a young guy working with him. I wouldn't call him old. He's 45, 46.
Holy hell!
But
I
he's
wouldn't call him old.
And Jamie's one of the sharpest cats in there.
And he watches his dollars. And he's been doing it for 20 years.
As every farmer does.
Right.
And he watched his daddy do it and his granddaddy do it.
And his granddaddy do it. And if anything would have been different, he'd have watched his great granddaddy do it too.
Right.
So I have to be careful when we're talking about numbers because not all my numbers are factual when it comes to that stuff. But I do interact with, like I said, the semen salesman. I mean, he broke that down to us. He said, look, guys, I can't get y'all grade A bulls. And some of that stuff I can't control. But on the other side, I want to give you something that comes straight out of the horse's mouth. So the land management programs.
The semen salesman?
No, not the semen salesman. I'm going to send him to your house, Amos, if you keep on.
We're line breeding. Don't worry. And that's the best way to go.
Don't get him
right.
excited. Right.
So he was when we bought the farm that backed up against the home farm 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, and it was an existing dairy farm. The barn on that property is 160 years old, I think. The Boone farm
across from Rockingham.
Yeah,
just down the road from Rockingham, where Josh Lilly and all them farm. Yeah. And so we didn't know what to do with it. It had to be productive, but it was too good of an opportunity to turn down. I mean, it backed right up against the barn. So we decided to start milking cows, and we decided to do jerseys, and we decided we were going to graze them. Well, all that was new to us. Never grazed cows before, never grazed milking cows before, and the fence was in piss poor condition. So and
that cost a new homestead to fix fence.
Oh man,
or build new fence.
You don't even talk to me about that.
NRCS come out. I got that one right. All these numerated businesses. NRCS come out and give us the layouts of the land. And you have, the more land you put between your fence and the creek, the more the government paid for. And I asked him, I said, so this is to keep cows out of the creeks, right? He said, yeah. I said, so it can grow up and be a buffer and I'm going to call it a silk fence between what runs off the pasture and what gets to the creek. And he said, that's right. It's supposed to filter out any debris before it gets to the creek. And I said, so what happens when all these trees and it brush and it grows up? I said, so you say they say cows are the problem with pollution in the creek. What happens when if I give you 30 feet between the creek and my fence, you're talking about taking up on acres. You can go 10 foot, you can go 15, you can go 30. What happens when all that grows up? Well, what do you mean? I said, well, that's habitats for coyotes, rabbits, deer. Does that pollution not go in the creek? Well, yeah, it does.
And, all right, so, we ain't got nothing fixed at the creek. And, in the summertime, flies on the cows. You go back to our pond, the whole pond's standing full of cows. All sticking out of the water is their head. What are they doing? They're keeping the flies off of them.
That's right.
So, or do I fence them out of the creek? Do I fence them out of the pond? Then I spray them with chemicals.
That's right.
To keep the flies off of them. Or do I let them do what nature does and go find a body of water and stand in it? I've yet to find anything to convince me that it's more harmful for the watershed for my cows to be standing in the creek than it is for all. You look at all the machine, all the other stuff that is pollution.
Well, I'll go back to what Thad said. When you stepped out of the room to alleviate some of your alcohol.
I was down there talking to your wife.
Yeah, is she happy?
You wasn't being a semen salesman, was you? Got him.
Stop it.
Well, all right, go ahead, Billy.
Son is named Amos, but
He named his boy after
and she was super happy about that. So, but I'll go back to what Thad was talking about. And is that a directive in every single city? Not just Roanoke. That when 2.5 inches of rain occur, that they can open up the floodgates to the sewer.
I think it's variable depending on their water capacity.
Because like Amos has told me about that before. He's like, I won't swim in Smith Mountain Lake, and it's not because of the Blackwater side. It's because of the needles and the condoms and stuff that get run into the sewers in Roanoke, and then they go into the Roanoke River when. And if that's something everywhere else, like you really have to take that into account. Like you don't think about those kind of things as just an average consumer. You think, I'm going to the grocery store and I have faith in this government. God, I hate to even say that phrase, faith in the government, because God Almighty, if you know me, there is none. But you would have enough faith to know that your water supply, you're not nickeling and diming it. You're not saying, oh, well, okay, it's clean, but if 2.5 inches of rain come, we're just going to jump the sewers right into the river. And then they got the nerve to turn around and blame the farmers for it. So, if that's an issue that's going around in every single city in the state of Virginia.
Every town in every city.
People need to understand this. This isn't, and like the Blackwater, you're not running through any sewer systems. You're not running through any water treatment plants.
No.
Blackwater runs straight from up there in Callaway.
Rocky Mountain has a treatment plant on the river.
That's the Pig River, though.
Oh yeah, it's
yeah,
Pig River.
That's a pig, though. So you ain't.
When I was working down.
We're talking about going to Smith Mountain, though. Pig goes into what Bugs Island.
Bugs Island.
Yeah. I was doing a bunch of developing down there at the lake, and I forget how many years ago it was when it was massive. It was spring, crazy amount of rain, and that was the year that all the stripers died off in the lake. Got parasites in their mouth and stuff. Direct from the sewage treatment plant dumping into the Roanoke River. We were going down on the shoreline every single day, picking up massive amounts of fish that were dead. Because they get parasites in their mouth, then they couldn't eat and they would die. And that wasn't from cow manure. It's a direct link to the sewage plant in Roanoke.
But they like to blame the farmer though for it.
Yeah, because
They
it's
blame the
easy.
farmer. Yeah.
We're a small percentage.
Yeah, it's easy.
We
We don't fight back.
We don't make a lot of noise because we're not very large.
And I've always felt like that. Me and my brother, we sit down. Me and Jeremiah's talked about this. If you look at in America, cow-calf operations, the people that have the cow-calf, not the feedlots, the cow-calf operations, I would say, I don't know what the numbers are, 75-80% of cow-calf operations are family farms. So they have the mamas, the babies are born, they sell the babies to these feedlots. It's easy to manipulate. It's easy to manipulate family operations because, like we said earlier, I mean, it's
That's your bread and butter.
You farm for the love of it, and so no matter whether we're making money or not, we're going to keep farming. So, and they know that. I honestly think that they know, that no matter what, we're still going to have our cows. And so that's we're an easy target. Hey, we can blame them, and they're still going to keep on producing them calves for us to take to the feedlots on a weekly basis. But when the government's running a sewage plant, it's easy to, blame the farmer versus. I mean, there's spots on the lake down there where there's cows come walking out in the lake, still, on the Blackwater end. You don't see the Blackwater end look like. I mean, ride the lake.
The 4-H down there at the 4-H center has been known for a cow or two to be swimming around the lake. People think that there's a good party pad right there up in the cove, and people have a tendency to cut the barbed wire and walk up in there and have a party and don't bother fixing the fence when they leave. So the farmer gets a call that his cows are swimming around in the
Well, that ain't no different than the Callaway racetrack. On Saturday night, they leave the racetrack. They run through the fence all the time.
Do they really?
Oh, yeah.
It probably is because it's Amos's fence. He's the one down there cussing when he's fixing it.
We've pulled plenty of cars out of the pond.
So I've mentioned several times about the Summit View.
That backs up to our land. I hope it's something good.
So how long has the Summit been view sitting?
That's the new one on 220.
That's right.
Was that the one with the bank or the industrial park? One's a business park, one's an industrial park, I thought.
The industrial
We're
park.
talking about the one. Okay.
I've got a comment about that that's really going to upset, because I'm going for the Board of Supervisors on this, and I'm going to go hard on them. I drove past there last night, and I've been thinking about it for months.
Our electric bill for them streetlights.
Somebody's already addressed that.
No, they
on
haven't.
this podcast. they
Because
have.
no one's fixed it. And they've got, it looks like JFK Airport, right? And there is no incoming or outgoing flights. They are not down pointing. They are every 20 feet. And if Franklin County thinks that supporting that power bill is a good idea to nowhere, there was a bleep in there somewhere.
I saw the F-bomb.
If we cannot take care of that business and be frugal with how we spend taxpayer dollars, Board of Supervisors, wake up. I'm coming for you. You guys are next, and I'm going to make it hurt.
Don't point
And
at me
I'm
like that.
done with it. I am done with it. You're not going to get away with this anymore. It's a disgrace, and I hope you hold your heads in shame. Fix this shit before I do, and it will be with at least a 12 gauge.
And that was two beautiful farms too.
You're
was.
right. You're
Amazing
right.
farms.
Beautiful farms.
I mean,
How can you uplight, like JFK Airport, that piece of land, and then hold your head and say, "Oh, we're looking after and we are frugal with taxpayers' money." You have got to be taking the P1SS.
that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh yeah, it is.
I
And
was just-
that was the warning shot. I'm coming.
I was just going to say, why don't we put a processor in right there, and then we could serve Franklin County. I'm talking locally grown beef for the whole county.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they'd be tickled to death if somebody would come in there and do that, but nobody's.
But do you see what I
Where you
mean?
gonna
I
find
mean,
somebody that wants to do that.
So we want to keep our money in our community.
Well, the problem is with that whole idea to begin with.
Well,
You know, we don't
Well,
need.
the thing about
Yeah, I
this,
know that.
what was the what commission it was about doing small farms and
so yes,
butchering and all of
Yes.
that in a mobile unit?
if you are on the board of supervisors,
I'm not.
no, if you are listening to this podcast,
I'm not yet.
they had a USDA approved trailer that was set up to go around to these small local farmers raising sheep, pig,
Goats.
sheep
it was
and
small
goat.
livestock.
It was small livestock, and it was set to come to the county, and for guys like Simon, who could process their land on their own property as long as it was set up to handle the trailer, which was a septic system,
Yeah.
and a power unit, and
You had to be
Simon.
trained to be able to.
That's
to
right.
access
That's
it.
right.
So did they have an inspector on the trailer?
Yes, it come with an
So
inspector.
it was USDA
It was $100 a week
to rent it.
to rent it a week.
Who butchered?
Well, once you were trained, you butchered it because you were USDA approved, and it had a stamp
So you did all the work and still had to pay them $100 a week.
to rent. No, to rent the machine. I mean, to rent the unit,
To rent the trailer.
the trailer.
I got you.
But it come with a USDA inspected. I mean, he was approved. This Wally was his name, and he was formerly an inspector, and they set it up for it to go around to these small farms. The farmer took the class, got approved, processed it on his own land, stuck it in his freezer, had a USDA inspected sticker on it, sell it out of
They
his
shot
freezer.
it down.
No. Wally got an offer for more money and went back to his old job. This trailer has been sitting still.
Where's it at?
As far as I don't know, as far as I know, because they haven't been able
Richmond,
to
where else?
They haven't been able to find anybody that's approved to get the trailer back up and running. Why doesn't the board of supervisors or whoever is in the head of the ag class come to an old local man, farmer, and say, "Hey, would you like to go get USDA approved so that we can get this shindig back up and running?"
But I mean, what's that no, because there ain't no old heads around here that want to be USDA approved.
Well, I understand
That's the
that, but
problem.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to go through a stupid government program,
No one trusts the USDA anymore.
nor should they.
right. But what I'm saying is, if they would do that, Simon has the potential to make
To be able to sell per pound.
per pound out of his freezer
To be
without going to another processor, so he can charge that processing fee.
And I get the margin.
Right, it cuts the middleman back out,
And that
other
will-
than the trailer.
Yeah.
That will eventually evolve
How does-
into cattle.
how does that help? How does that help the government to cut the middleman out? It don't.
It don't.
But I
But
get the margin.
didn't we just hear the board of supervisors say that they wanted as many family farms to stay in existence not here too long ago?
Well, maybe they should be spending $5.5 million
Dollars on-
a
Firehouse.
volunteer fire department in the area of the county that gets probably the least amount of calls.
Or $12 million on Summit View.
Yeah, we've
That they like to light up like JFK Airport. Don't get me going. Here we go.
But it has made deer hunting over on our land really nice because nobody hunts over it no more.
Hey,
This is
what
where- this is where
is
we're
your
at.
deer call?
I don't hunt. I'm too soft-hearted.
this the Summit View, the whole idea, I think it's a terrible investment. I mean, just they should have never done it. And now I'm not opposed to an industrial park because it has lots of opportunities. But the first thing any locality needs to do before they ever decide they want Coca-Cola or Caterpillar to come into their neighborhood is they need to cultivate the small businesses that are already there.
The entrepreneurs.
And when you get those entrepreneurs hitting on all cylinders, and I'm not talking about you don't need
Apple.
you don't need hardly anything. You just need a government that recognizes these people are here, provides their contact information for anybody who wants to come into the county for any reason so that you can find what you need. And when Franklin County, for example, let me just give a hypothetical here. When Franklin County has 4 engineering firms, guys working out of their basement, and they have 6 architectural firms, guys working in their living room, and they have 12 excavating companies that are large enough to do, that have the contracting license large enough to do large work, and you go down the list, concrete, electrical, HVAC, right on down the list, all the way to human resources and accounting.
But none of them are hired.
Do you know what? I know none of those are hired, but do you know what happens then? Coca-Cola buys their own property in Franklin County, develops their own, because they can get it done for pennies on a dollar, because the competition of the small business owner in Franklin County is such that they can get it done cheaper than anywhere else they're going to go. Because if we buy, as a government, we buy an industrial park and we go to courting these businesses, guess what? Atlanta, Georgia's courting them. Charlotte, North Carolina's courting them. What do we got to offer in Franklin County that's going to make them come when they can go to places like that?
The CTE,
When we're mortgaging the courthouse to pay for the industrial park.
the CTE business development out of
Moducraft building.
Moducraft building is a prime example of where they lost the thread. I'm not even going to go into how the Board of Supervisors thought that they are property developers. I'm going to leave that well alone, because that statement alone says it all. When, hang on, there's another prime example I'm thinking of here. Damn it, it's lost me. Someone fill in a thread a second. It's going to come to me in a moment of genius.
Well, I think we're pushing the lines of farming and politics. We've been pushing that line a little bit anyway, but we're getting way over. Can I throw something in there?
Absolutely.
So 5 years ago is when me and my brother-in-law started raising cows. Had a family member that was having health issues, and the more they dug, the more they found out that the products that they were buying from the store was causing 80% of their health issues. And so they come to us and wanted to try something. And so we started with beef. Beef. Now they want us to do hogs. But farming, like we said, is a lifestyle, and a farmer will go broke doing what he loves. That's a hard pill to swallow.
It happens. It's happened a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way I can say that. You look at the farms that have went out of business, and tell me how many of them went out of business that wasn't on E.
Yeah. Well, the problem that we have, the reason why that occurs, and again, this is for another podcast too, probably, is because agriculture, we have hired somebody else to do our marketing for us. We have not marketed anything for ourselves. We have always been a wholesale, take whatever they give us, and we have not marketed anything. And this is where we've ended up.
Yeah, but
it's a disaster for everybody.
We have been legislated out of the ability to sell our product directly.
Well, that's correct.
Down to big ag. And therein lies the problem. And if we don't fix that now, guess what? We're going to run illegal. We're going to run underground. And we're still going to do what we do. We are not going away.
That's what Franklin County is known for.
That's right.
Roger that.
But we have got to start marketing. That's the thing. We've got to start marketing ourselves as, and we've talked about the gamut of it. It's the nutritious food. It's the stuff that can eliminate you going to the doctor and the drugstore, all the way down to the fact that it's the stuff that's going to eliminate this climate change catastrophe that we think we're having. So, that all those things can be solved by one segment of the population who has the ability to do it, but we have not.
And I've got to drop a slight cautionary tale there. We are going to eliminate the middleman but you are paying for quality. Now, I'm not going to swing around and say we're going to match the price that you can get in the store. I think that's a dangerous road to go down.
But we're not
because
blending
there's too-
soybeans with our meat.
because there's too much margin and profit that has been taken away from the farmer when you look at the price per pound of what's being sold in the store. But I think we should be extremely competitive and significantly cheaper if you deal directly with the farmer.
So let's talk about that for just a minute. Dealing
Do it.
directly with the farmer. So Thad has a setup where he can sell by the pound. I'm not there yet.
Which makes me proud.
It does. Because I actually remember when Thad was talking about quitting when he was going out. Didn't you sell your cows at one time?
I didn't sell all of them, but most of them.
You
Sold
sold
down.
almost. He sold almost all of them. I remember that.
As do I.
And now some people think Thad's plumb crazy, but Thad thinks out of the box. And Thad wouldn't be sitting here if Thad didn't think out of the box.
Well, there's a fine line between crazy and genius.
Well, he is the smartest one in the room, so
And that is directed completely at you.
Well, you
being
know,
the
and that, I
smartest
mean,
guy
it
in the
goes
room.
back to, you know, like I said, I don't look at, I mean, other farmers as competitors. I mean, I'll tell you right now, you know, I talked to somebody that is looking for local farm raised, you know, I encourage him to go to Melvin.
If Thad's got
I can't feed the whole community.
if Thad's story is a success, we should be following in the very footsteps that he sets.
Darn right. Absolutely. I mean, you know, hey, I mean, if you're wanting local meat, go find Melvin's store. I almost called Thad Melvin a while ago too.
well, it's hard not to when
I
he looks
know.
like him, don't he?
And even the same haircut.
I know.
And
I don't think his facial hair is quite as thick as his dad used to be, but
depending on what day you met Melvin. But you know, I just feel like that I want everybody to be able to enjoy, you know, the same quality of meat that I enjoy, or the same milk. I mean, we hand milked out. We didn't have a dairy farm. We had beef cows. We got our own dairy cows. But we have a milking machine now, but we hand milk them, skim them, make butter. Most people can never imagine that.
Homestead Creamery, what a success story is that? And that came out like the phoenix out of the flames. I love that.
And I thought it was the craziest idea I ever heard of.
Brilliant.
Almost as crazy
Love
as I
it.
thought Billy was when he'd been talking about this podcast 5 years ago.
And look where we are now.
but don't think that it didn't come without its sacrifices.
Oh, it took balls to roll that dice.
I mean,
It
everything has a price. Everything
That's
has a
right.
sacrifice.
That's right.
I mean,
That's
we
right.
sacrifice every day.
That's right. That's right. And I'm a promoter of Thad's, but I'm also a promoter of the creamery because the milk that we produce, that's where it goes. Straightforward. And the creamery has come up with its own set of standards for our milk quality that is
much higher than the standard.
That's right. Than the state standard.
Can you say that just one more time?
The Homestead Creamery has come up with its own set of standards that is much higher than the state.
Thank you very much.
And I honestly think, I mean, that is the basis of Thad's standards are much higher than state standards.
That's right.
Isn't this our argument throughout? That the local producer is going to produce a higher standard of products because that's the only way he's going to survive?
Happy cows produce quality milk.
Happy cows don't come from California; they come from Callaway.
God's country.
Amen.
You didn't have to shake the L out of them either, did you? I got him on that one.
But you know, I feel like that as a local producer, producing milk, producing beef, you know,
Look, if I'm producing...
we have a higher standard than Kroger or Walmart.
That's right.
Always will. Because the guys we're selling to, the people that we know, the people that are eating our meat, drinking our milk.
We
They're
won't
our
be in
neighbours.
business. We
Yeah.
won't be in business if they don't
That's
enjoy
right.
our
They're our
quality.
neighbours.
Yeah.
You do bad on your neighbour, guess what's going to happen?
We're not
you don't
run-
shit on your doorstep.
We're not
right?
running around flinging year contracts. We know that if we sell a bad product, it
Gonna
ain't going
bite you in the ass.
next week. You know, they're going to tell the next person. You know, it works both ways. If it's a good product, you're going to gain 10 customers that week. If it's a bad product, you're losing 10.
That's right.
And you know, I wish everybody could be a farmer.
I think at some point in time, everybody needs to at least know that. That was a huge point of this show. Is I want everybody to be interested in it. Like, whether you want to go into it as a business or whether you want to do it to be self-sustainability, you really need to learn how to grow. You really need to know how to raise things. And you don't have to have a big operation to go to your neighbor and say, okay, well, hey, you know, I got 2 or 3 cows out here in the field. You got a bull. Let's change it up every few years or whatever the case may be. Figure out where your community's at and start investing your time, effort, and money into your own community. Like, these are the people that out here that their kids are running around with your kids. Like, these are things you're not going to learn in the school. School system is set up to make you ignorant of these kind of things. That's why I named my kid after Amos, is because I'm ignorant of all this stuff. And so I figure maybe he'll teach my son how to do this kind of stuff because it's going to be necessary. I mean, you know, inflation with everything that's going on right now, you want to be as self-sufficient as you possibly can. So for nothing else, learn your own quality. Learn the quality of your community.
If you're buying meat from local farmers, whether that's poultry, pig, beef, whatever it may be, okay, a protein product, and you're supporting your local farmer, which is what we're promoting here, do one thing. Grow a herb garden. Because it's the herbs that add the flavour that bring out everything about the goodness of the meat and the products and the protein that these guys produce.
That's the British talking in you. Herb, yeah.
It is herb because there's an H there. It's not French and
Good
it's not
quality,
herb.
good quality meat does not need anything but a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and butter.
Butter.
You'll never put a better bit
Homemade
of
butter,
in your knife.
not store-bought.
That's right.
So long as it's yellow.
Well, and not springtime butter because it tastes like wild onions.
Yes, it does.
Well, I know for me personally, I have sampled at some point in time something everybody in this room has produced. You know, I've had Amos, God almighty, I'm trying to put this in a good way. When I say I've had Amos's meat.
Oh, no. That wasn't the way to put it, by the way.
Well, that's why I'm trying to think of the right one. I have
Pork and beef.
Yes, pork and beef. You know, and at times when that runs out, we'll go down there and we'll get stuff from Melvin's. I am kind of I'm kind of curious about your hiring decisions on your delivery drivers. Which when you talk about safety and then you hire somebody like a Riddle, it kind of makes me think that maybe safety isn't your number one priority. Just to let you know, my dad works for.
Oh, he runs around.
He does. He runs a route for him. So
I was trying to figure that out.
I kind of got to wonder about his hiring decision. But same thing with Homestead Creamery. That's the milk we get. It's the milk we feed our daughter all the time. We've also gotten, we've sampled goat's milk from up there at Simon's. You know, my wife
And
was
the
going through her
cheeses.
issues. The
Awesome.
cheeses, everything. Like I've never been disappointed ever. And that's a big reason why I really want to do this show is because I know everybody in this room. I know their products. I know what they're selling. And I don't want to go to Kroger and I go to Kroger to buy as little as I possibly can.
That's what
As
we
little
should.
as I
That's what
possibly
we
can.
should all be striving for.
I just want to say anything I say about the Homestead Creamery has been as an observer or an employee. I have no stake in the game. The farm I work for provides the milk for it. That is all on my.
That's the best words.
Either way, it's still a
Now,
quality product. You know,
that's
even
right.
if you go down to the store down there, you're going to find a lot of local. You know, the Boone Country store. You know, Melvin's Farm and Fork. We got a lot of local. You can go to the farmers market on Saturdays.
Go to Boo Country Store and,
We
and,
have a
and learn something.
ton of people in here that you can support, and this goes for every community out there. Look, there are farmers that are bringing their best to you. Yes, you're going to pay a little bit more than you're going to pay at the store, but you're paying for more quality. And look, if everybody started going and supporting their local farmers, guess what? That price goes down because now you're putting more money in their pockets. They have more money to operate and they have more money to drop their prices. So if you look at them and say, well, I can't pay all this. Well, guess what? You're paying to get yourself poisoned. Because the long and the short of it is the things, the regulations in this country and Great Britain or whatever the hell country Simon comes from, England, wherever it is, their standards are, they don't allow some of these GMOs and things. Why? No. Because they have socialized health care and they keep healthcare costs down by not allowing these chemicals and all these kind of things into their food supply. So around here in America, our standards are very laxed. So if you want to get quality, go to your farmer's market. Go to Melvin's Farm to Fork. Go to Homestead Creamery. Market. Go to Rippling Creek Farms. Go and find these. And what the hell is the one that the NAFs do? They got some good stuff too. I'm not sure. God, I can't remember it. I mean, the hell with y'all. You ain't come on my show yet. Actually, Abe has. So.
Even if you go, and dare I say it, having made my little preach earlier about sending tax dollars outside the county, Roanoke is the oldest farmers market in the state. The Rocky Mount Farmers Market is awesome. It's building, it's becoming something. So let's support this. Keep our tax dollars in the county, support our farmers, and make it happen. But start making some decisions that you are controlling your destiny and your health.
Not only your destiny,
but your kids,
but other people's. You Billy said you might pay a little more going to the local farmer. But in reality, in the grand scheme of things, you're really not. Because, you do pay a little more to go to Melvin's, to me.
Currency-wise.
But that money stays here.
Yes.
So once that money gets rotated around, at the end of the day, that it all equals itself out. When you go and pay a little less to Kroger or Walmart, and that money goes to Bennyville, Arkansas, it's gone. You go to me or to Thad and pay a little more. We're going to turn around and spend that money right back in this community. And so, at the end of the day, I feel like that it all equals itself out. And that's what we got to do. I mean, we got to get to taking care of each other. I mean, we got to take care of each other. They say it takes a village to raise a kid.
Yes, it does.
And these days, it takes a village to survive. We all take care of each other. We're all going to, at the end of the day, we're going to be better off.
Let's be a community.
We are a community.
Start gardening with one another.
Let's support it.
We done that.
Hoeing around?
Yeah, we hoed around. Actually, I set aside, I don't know, maybe a half acre at my house. And I have some very close friends and family. And we done a community garden trial run.
Socialism don't work.
On a small scale, it actually does. On a very, very small, it just doesn't scale.
So it was everybody pitched in, though. Between your weeding and the seeds, everybody brought something to the table. And
ownership.
That's right.
That's the easy part. Wait till you start getting the beans and the tomatoes start coming.
Yeah.
Then you better have some help.
Well,
you have to do something with all that stuff.
And that's right. That's right. So we had this year. We decided to go with something that we could mass produce.
What's legal now?
Yep. Yep. No, we did white potatoes, red potatoes, and corn. And tomato. Well, somebody had some extra tomatoes.
To sell, like selling them at the market.
No. This was
use.
personal. And the garden was like 75 feet wide by 100 and something long.
Well, Mama had that for all of eight kids.
Well, yeah. And so everybody come to the table and said, look, let's try it and see how it works. Because you have generations out here that grew up gardening. And my daughter, who, when she gets of age, there probably won't be such a thing as gardening with her generation, her age group. Kids won't know what they don't know how to put dirt in their hands and make something grow.
There's a tragedy.
And that's why,
we grew up doing that.
Jeremiah's little boy, Zane. I mean,
What a lovely lad.
Yes.
Sharp as a tack.
I do not want to discourage the farming. Like, Jeremiah takes care of the cows. I take care of the machinery. I do all the machine work. I'm mechanically. He tries my patience. He comes in the shop. He throws my tools around. He destroys my shop.
He tries my patience too, and I got to put up with him this coming Saturday.
Good luck. But, I do not want to discourage it because, my granddaddy had patience with me. If it was, I had a love for it. And I'm sure just like y'all, I mean, when you grew up, it was somehow, some way we all had a love, somehow came up with a love for farming. I'm in the middle of 8 kids, and, some of my siblings have zero to do with farming. And the rest of us, I mean, we love it. I mean, I got my sister, she's a nurse. She fights to farm.
I was going to say, she can't wait to get home and put her hands in dirt.
She gets so mad if she gets so mad when she's at the clinic and can't be home making hay.
Amos, you made all that hay without my help?
Yeah.
Ain't that the fact?
And, I feel like that you cannot discourage the next generation from wanting to have the love of that same thing.
No, because there's not enough of them coming up that can.
And they're getting fewer and fewer and fewer.
That's right. So Thad, you said you were what, 7th generation, 6th generation?
Yeah, 6.
So if all your kids decided they didn't want anything to do with farming, then what's the use in you pursuing to keep your farm alive for them to take over?
Somebody else gonna want it.
Somebody else is going to want
it. It'll be somebody
That's
else.
right. And more than likely,
it turns into Summit View or a housing development.
That's right. More than likely, somebody's going to buy it out. Exactly what happened
or
right there.
Or a solar farm.
It happened right up there at my place. The old man decided that he was ready to retire. He was ready to go to Florida with his daughter. The man bought it up. Next thing you know, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses built on acre lots, and he bought the other side of the road, and they've got 1, 2, 3. They've got 10 lots ready to go up right there. Now that ain't much, but that was a farm, a homestead, and it used to be a beef cattle operation. And so, for instance, so my boss man is a 4th generation dairy farmer. There's nobody to take it over. The only person he has to take it over is his nephew. His nephew is chasing the dream of welding. His other nephew is his daddy's a plumber. Those are
good, honest trades. I love them.
But there's nobody that shows any interest in the farming. Now, the welder could surprise me. I'm just saying. But there's no. So his dream of passing that on and keeping that family farm going it's dwindled.
But it's almost. It's unaffordable to go buy a farm.
Right. I could not. If
none of us could.
Today, if Jamie come to me and said, "Look, I want to sell out. I do not want to do it anymore."
You can't afford it.
I cannot afford it.
And
if he come to me and said, "I want to sell out. I want money. Here's the land. Here's the equipment. Here's the cows." I can't do it.
Nobody can.
The only way that I could do it is if he would sit down with me and he'd say, "All right, I want you to start making the shots. I want you to start calling the shots. Here's the value of the land. Here's the value that it is at farming. I'm willing to sell you all the land at farm value," which is basically, it's higher
but
than
you spend the rest of your life paying off a tab.
That's right. A young man in his 20s cannot start dairy farming unless he picks it up from an older generation. Now, I say that, I have to say this. The young man that is milking jerseys at the farm we bought come in, signed a loan on the cows 2 days before he turned 18.
Let me tell you something.
But he has a drive.
Sink blood.
He come in and was able to get a loan for the cows and a really good deal on the property, releasing the property. This boy has took it above and beyond anything I thought an 18-year-old would do.
Good lad.
Sink blood.
What I'm telling you is he has been
That's
able.
Willie Sink blood.
He has been able to hold his jerseys at 45 to 50 pounds of milk year round.
Good Lord.
Off of grazing. Strictly grazing. Now, in the wintertime, he supplements like you do, Thad, with a little bit of silage and baleage, but grazing.
And me,
We couldn't hold. You know, Holsteins now. We're used to dealing with Holsteins. Jerseys was like getting smacked in the face with a Louis Slugger.
Jeremiah says Holsteins are not cows. He said they cannot survive without human intervention. They're not cows. But you know, Claude Green. I mean, we've talked about him. We talked about him for years. You know, that was one of the only farmers I knew that wasn't growing corn when I was growing up. And I mean, he had one of the prettiest farms. A cat, you know, he obviously had something figured out a long time ago.
Brewer's Grain.
He was he feeding Bruce Green?
Yeah, at one point in time he was.
From where? From where?
I don't know. Probably.
It couldn't have been that much. I mean, not because he ain't raised corn, and I don't know that I've ever remembered him raising corn.
He used to get it by the semi load, but I don't know his ration.
But he does all high moisture hay.
Yeah, that was I wasn't really focused on dairy cows at the point in time. I knew Claude Green. You know what I'm saying? But yes, I mean he had it figured out.
Well, I tell you what, we're at
This
2
has been an
hours and
interesting
47 minutes into
Good
the show.
Lord.
Do you think we might need to split this one into two? I don't know.
You know we're going to need
I
to.
think we might have to. With Thanksgiving break coming up, maybe we'll split this into two, and then maybe we'll release our rant session on Wednesday as part of the public. That way they can kind of know what they're going to get. We'll see how that goes.
You burnt the whole evening up, Billy. I was trying to have a conversation with Thad without being on this microphone.
Well, we can always do that. We can put it on the subscriber page if we wanted to. But look, I think for one, this is definitely a conversation we need to have more than one time. I think we need to bring back the farmers in here at least once every 6 months to a year, just to give people an update to find out, you know, what's going on, where their money's going, and why it's going in the way it's going. And I think to have the cast we've had on here today, it's a phenomenal group. Like Thad has blown my mind this entire time. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know much about. I knew the store, but I kind of thought his wife kind of ran the show because she's very much into a lot of stuff. I know my wife has bought a ton of stuff from her before on things, and she's very much involved in it. And like all the rest of us,
Don't our wives all run the show?
well, that's what I'm saying. You know, but Gail, I mean, she's my wife really likes everything that Gail does. She likes, you know, how she puts it out there and everything. So
The farm to fork concept is fantastic. I love it. I love the way you're pulling the community together, the farming community together. You're walking a thin line between what can and cannot be allowed. I love it. Keep pushing those barriers.
And being willing to educate yourself enough to know where I can go with it.
Well, yeah,
Where, you know,
exactly.
and that's the respect I have for you.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Keep doing what you do because it's going to feed and it's going to grow. And it's not in a competition sense, but we are going to expand our market to how you're driving your business plan.
Yeah.
And hopefully here, when Philip gets his farm to fork or farm to table store going in the downtown hotel, a lot of these local farmers can expand by putting their product in the middle of that store because it's going to be
It's
right there.
exactly the same concept that you're promoting. will
With
end
more
up
foot
in
traffic.
With foot traffic in downtown.
Yeah, and
Rocky
foot
Mount.
traffic outside of this town as well. They're going to come there. They're going to go to the hotel. They're going to go down like, well, hey, baby, we only got an hour to drive. Let's look at this meat down here in the store. And next thing you know, now we're getting money that's coming into this town from other counties, from other locations. They're sending it here, and we're not letting it go. And that's
So lead that success story. I challenge you, lead it.
Well, I want to thank y'all for letting me come on again. I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to chat with Chris and Thad.
Yep.
Loved every minute of it. I just enjoy the whole farming aspect, and I feel like that more people should have a better understanding.
Get your hands dirty.
That farming is not
Don't be shy.
for a quick buck.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a way of life.
I love it.
It's a lifestyle. It's for the love of it. It ain't for the money of it.
Never has been. Never has been.
Can I make this real intimate right quick?
No.
No.
Are you gonna
My love
Are you
for
going to
farming.
touch me?
No, Simon.
You did. Go on, brother.
1994. I lost my mom and my dad and my grandpa all in one night. Now, granted, I've had some people in my corner to push me and keep pushing me when I wanted to give up. But I found a love for something I truly care about, and I will defend it until I die. Farming, it's unbelievable. It's rewarding. It'd be a lot like a UFC fight. You get up in the morning, you go out, you put your best foot forward. Sometimes you get knocked down and you have to get back up. Sometimes you come out and it's A-OK. You got to win. But don't let anybody tell you that you can't be successful. Chase your dreams. This farming is a dream of mine. It wasn't always to be raising beef, but I've always had a dream of farming. I wanted to go to PBR, but I learned at the age of 8 when a cow drugged me down the side of a barn on an electric fence that PBR was not my calling.
Don't do that.
But grow something. If you're listening to this podcast, go to one of our local stores that sells tomato plants. Get you a pot and grow that tomato. And
Satisfaction.
and see how satisfactory it is. When you put effort into something and it rewards you, it will encourage you to take the next step. And who knows, you might be the next Jerry Connor and come up with what is his business? Hydroponic lettuce farm. Or you might be the next Thad Montgomery. I don't want anybody to be the next Chris Montgomery, but but put your hands in dirt. That's where they're meant to be. They're meant to grow things. And I learned so much of that with when I had my little girl. To watch her grow and to see her adapt and overcome to solutions. It's the same thing I've been doing my whole life. Same thing Thad's done his whole life. You adapt and you overcome. And you feel rewarded for those steps that you take that pay off. Now, some of them don't. But don't let that crush a dream.
Don't be WD-38. Don't be
what?
39. Be WD-40.
I'm 41, son.
Well, I appreciate y'all inviting me to come on here. It's been a pleasure, and like I say, we run Melvin's Farm to Fork store, and y'all can find us in Burnt Chimney. We got signs on the road up there, and we on Facebook, and we have a website. The one thing I'll say to add to Chris's thing here, one of the things that I like most about farming that keeps me driving is the fact that I have milked my own cows for 30 years. Ever since I was a senior in high school, I bought cows when I was in high school. And I can do it for 30 more, and I still ain't going to know what the heck I'm doing because
Power to you.
The drive to learn new things, if you come up with if you have a problem, find a solution.
That's
Multiple
the life
solutions.
problem. That's a life problem. Don't give me a problem. Give me a solution.
That's right. Don't blame somebody else. We can sit on here and we can talk about government. We can blame all these different organizations and big ag and all this. We got to find our own solution, and our own
solutions
is our own community has to come together and begin to support the local businesses so that the GDP that we create here in Franklin County can stay in Franklin County.
Circulate Franklin County.
And we enrich ourselves. It's not that any small business owner is ever going to necessarily get completely wealthy rich, But
we all can.
We all can.
I love that message.
Um,
Brilliant.
You know, Chris said he lost 3 of his family members in one night. When something hits you in life, you got 2 options. You can either use it as a crutch or you can use it as a ladder. You can think about it and you can climb. Or you can think about it, lean on it, cry in the corner over it. That's all up to us, each one of us individually. You know, you go through hard years on a farm. Mother Nature's against you. I mean, me and Jeremiah, my brother, right after we started farming, very ignorantly bought a cow, turned it loose with the herd, introduced shipping fever to the whole cow, to the whole herd. We go out the next day. There's 3, or a few days later, we got 3 dead cows. Next day, we go out, we got 3 or 4 more dead cows. We didn't have, I mean, you know, everything we had was invested in it. You want to see 2 grown men crying on each other's shoulders. You got 10 dead cows, most of them's pregnant. Why? Why are we doing this? You know, there's a new truck laying there. You know, we've lost a new truck this week. But you don't sob about it. I mean, you climb. I mean, you learn. You know, all right, move on.
That climbing is much more rewarding.
And it hurts the feet.
It does. Never quit climbing.
Hell no.
Winston Churchill said it best. Never quit.
Of course, coming from a Brent.
We can't end this episode on a British quote or something. So
Hey.
how about I'll say raise hell and praise Dale, and
Put your 3s up.
Hey, Franklin Countyans are a lot like that jar right there on the table. They don't give up easy.
All right. With that being said, we're gonna do this again. I've had a blast today. I think it's very informative. We've had a lot of fun. I think everybody around this table has got a great personality as well, and they fit perfectly in front of a microphone as well. I think everybody's added to this show quite a bit. So for Chris, Thad, Amos, Simon, of course, everybody else out there, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, Patreon.com/GetOnTap. $3 a month. You get subscriber content. You're going to get a whole of our show coming up here. I don't know what we're going to call it. Maybe bitching sessions with Simon and Billy. Whatever it is.
The Rant Fest.
It's going to be uncut, all that kind of good stuff. And look, at the end of the day, it's $3 a month. You're supporting us. Or you can, just send us money randomly or whatever. You don't want to go through all that kind of nonsense. Anything we take, this, what we're doing right here, it's not inexpensive. But we're trying to help out our community as much as we can. So whatever that we get our way is going right back into the community as well, and support these people and talking about these people, the farmers, the local business owners, the people who are tired of having their necks stepped on by boots. We're that kind of voice. So we appreciate.
We want to leave this place a better place than we found
But we left it. Absolutely. So for everybody else out there, we appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.